this cracked me up when it came out. The FDA broke its own internet. You're supposed to submit the eSTAR via the client communication portal, and the portal won't accept all eSTARs. So the basics for some of you that might not have worked in the eSTAR, it's a interactive PDF that the FDA has created to guide you through the preparation process for 510K. It has it automatically constructs itself, and it has these guided construction instructions for each section, and it has automatic verification built in as well. One important thing that you need to know is that your software and operating systems are very important. You have to have Adobe Acrobat Pro DC or the latest Acrobat Pro. The Windows versions or Foxit. There are some known issues with some known bugs in some of the other PDF programs. So the advantages of eSTAR for the FDA is that it enables more efficient and consistent reviews. It improves their productivity. And this last one's important because for all of these exorbitant user fees or annual registration fees the industry has to pay, the FDA has to make commitments to usually improve their processes or some other initiative. And so this eSTAR program came out of a commitment for them to improve their pre-market review process. So this is now mandatory as of October 1 for all 510K submissions. They have to be submitted electronically using the eSTAR. And then the de novo pre-submissions and PMAs are still voluntary. They released the templates for pre-submissions this summer. They were still in beta at the time, and then they just released the ones for PMAs this week.
Michelle, just overall, do you think this change is good or bad? Real simple.
That's a complicated answer, and I did a SWOT on it.
Okay.
We'll get to here in a minute. Yeah, and I saw Rob snickering, so he knows exactly where I'm going with this. So I think one of the interesting things is that, you know, the 510K process used to be a little bit more of a pull from the FDA. If they couldn't find something or thought your submission was missing certain testing, they would ask you. The eSTAR template is intended to more pull that information from the manufacturer, requiring them to populate certain sections of the device of the 510K based off of their design features. It is an interactive and dynamic format that is, you select the different bubbles or check marks that apply for your submission, and then it automatically either opens up or shuts down different parts of the application. So you have to streamline your supporting attachments. It helps to have the bookmarks or for the table of contents. You need to use smart naming conventions to facilitate finding the attachments. We recommend sequential numbering and a title that matches the attachment description in the eSTAR. And the acceptable formats include PDF, Word, and Excel. And new in the eSTAR is that you can also attach videos, which can be really helpful and wasn't an option before in normal PD in the old way of assembling 510Ks. So you need to review all the questions carefully because, like I said, it will either open up or shut down different sections. This can be really tricky if you're submitting a special 510K. You need to know which testing that you need to turn in to support your special 510K. And it could negatively impact or slow down your submission if the incorrect information is presented or incomplete. So the template auto-populates text in other sections based on your response. Now, this is really interesting, and we're going to talk about this in more detail in the SWOT analysis. So in the device description section, or actually throughout the whole thing, any text box that has a yellow banner across the top is that information can be used to auto-populate the summary, and it will be publicly available. So you need to be very careful about any text that you enter into these yellow boxes, because you want to double check and make sure that there's not anything that you would consider proprietary or confidential. So you have additional traceability information related to the guidance documents, and each section has a template now in the template to fill in the applicable guidance documents. This didn't used to be necessarily a part of the 510K process, but now for every section, you need to enter the guidance documents that are applicable to that section. So ensure that you attach all FDA correspondence directly to the eSTAR application, such as your 513Gs, pre-submissions, non-substantial equivalence withdrawals, or your emergency use authorizations. So this can really make the template unwieldy in terms of size and attachments, especially if you have an NSE and you're trying to attach an entire previous submission to it. So get specific. The new requirements in the template, they require you now for certain things, especially in labeling, to reference the specific attachment number and the page number within that attachment where that they can find this information. So some sections that are different is the eSTAR template incorporates some forms which no longer need to be filled out because they're built into the template itself. So there is no longer the submission cover sheet or the indications for use form. And the eSTAR template has also excluded some previously required forms, like some things that just didn't make sense, especially after the FDA reclassified all class 3 devices. They're either now all PMA, or they've down classified to class 2 and they require 510K. So there's no more class 3s where 510K is an option. So they eliminated that form. They eliminated the financial disclosure form and the declaration summary reports, because those are now generated. The declaration summary reports are now generated by the eSTAR for you. So if we look at the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of the eSTAR template and the 510K program now. So there's no refuse to accept anymore. So in theory, this means that you should start review 15 days earlier. But so far, I haven't really seen much of a difference. It's still taken about 2 to 3 weeks for a reviewer to be assigned and to start that process. This does align with FDA's internal review template. So the eSTAR gets loaded into their internal system, and it gets blown out into their internal review, where they make their notes and provide their AIs that they're going to send you later. You get an error message if your responses don't make sense to it, which can be really helpful. Like if you indicate you have wireless technology, but you have not said that you include software, it will ask you questions like, how can you have wireless technology and you don't have, and you've indicated that your device doesn't contain software. The blue question marks, they have helpful links to pop-ups. And that this can give you a lot of really specific information and instructions for that can be specific to your types of technology, including resources and hyperlinks directly to the FDA website to give you more context. So it has that option to automate the 510K summary. You can check yes or no. And this is where I was talking about that it's really important to know what you're putting in those yellow boxes, because if you check yes, everything you put in those yellow boxes will be used to build the 510K summary. And if you click no, then you're going to be asked to upload the 510K summary as an attachment later on. Personally, I still write them myself and upload them as an attachment. I choose not to have it auto-generated for the public, and we'll take a look at what that looks like next. So this is an example of what it looks like, and all of these fields are auto-populated directly from the eSTAR template. So even though you would have double checked it when you entered the information elsewhere, you need to also look at how did it pull over and how does it read in the context of the 510K summary. I actually came across one when I was doing a predicate search for a client recently, where and this is like the public 510K summary that's available on the 510K database for this particular device, because they chose to have it auto-populated. So again, you know, there might be some information that would not typically be available to the public, or that you may or may not include in your own 510K summary in the way that it's presented here. The format is also a little clunky and can kind of maybe be more difficult to read or make sense out of than the self-prepared 510K summaries. And then you can tell that this is auto-populated because some of it is the exact same format that it appears in the eSTAR template. So the pro here is that ideally it saves time by pulling this content, so you don't have to draft this or go in a back and forth with the reviewer about that they want this sentence to appear above the substantially equivalent table instead of below, or they have all kinds of weird little feedback that they give you about those sometimes. And then competitive insight, and this isn't a pro for you necessarily, but when you're reviewing, you know, other predicates, you might be able to see more information than you would otherwise see in a summary that was prepared by the company. So, but the con is you're unable to tailor exactly what information is going to be available in that public database. And that, again, you could be given some competitive insight to another company that wants to use you as a predicate. Another strength is its automated completeness verification. So it will go through, initially, it'll start out as green, red, or gray. And so green means it's good to go. Red means that something is missing and that should be there. And a gray is optional, or it might be something where you haven't selected a feature yet, where it hasn't either included or excluded the particular contents. So another strength is that there's no more messing with standards and the standard forms. It auto-populates all the FDA recognized consensus standards from the database. So you can start typing in the number. It automatically fills in the name of the standard, the recognition number, and then you also tell it, how are you going to use it? Is it general use, or are you going to do a declaration of conformity? If you're going to do a declaration of conformity, it will tell you, it will create that declaration of conformity for you. And the difference is when you do a declaration of conformity, it means that you have you've fulfilled the standard in its entirety without any exemptions or deviations. Whereas if you do general use, it means that you have used it again for general purposes and you haven't fulfilled the entire standard. Once you put in the product code, the 3-letter product code, it also automatically pulls in all the information for the classification sections related to the medical specialty, the regulation number, and so on and so on. But don't rely on this solely to find. Oh, this is, yeah, sorry. This is very helpful because it also populates if there is a product code that has a particular guidance document reference. It will bring in and populate the guidance information, which is really helpful because a lot of companies may not realize that there is a guidance document applicable to their product code. And so the eSTAR will prompt you to make sure that not only do you include it as reference in your submission, but then you know that you should go back and make sure that all your testing, your labeling, etc., complies with that guidance document. But it won't pull in draft guidance documents, you know, for obvious reasons, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't know that they're out there. You should still look and be aware, because even draft guidance documents kind of reflect the industry, the FDA's current thinking on things. So even if you're not going to comply with them, you should at least be aware, so that if you get an additional information request, you understand where it could be coming from. So weaknesses include file size, and your processing of your submission might be delayed if your PDF exceeds 1 GB in file size. I haven't heard of anybody that hit it, but like you said, like I said before, you have to attach all your previous communications, and if the submitter has had maybe an NSE and a couple of pre-submissions or more than one NSE, this file size can get large really quickly. The file count, you need to combine attachments so that you only have one attachment provided to each question in eSTAR. And you need to really have bookmarks and table of contents so the FDA can navigate that attachment. Make sure that you use the current version of the eSTAR template, because this does change about every quarter or so far. Use the most updated versions of the applications. There's a JavaScript bug in certain Adobe Acrobat Pro applications that causes the dynamic PDFs like eSTAR to run slower than normal. And this is directly from the FDA website. It says the slowness bug is not present in Foxit or any version of Adobe Acrobat Pro 2017, and for at least some, but not all, users of Adobe Acrobat Pro in DC. So we are working with Adobe to help them resolve this bug. So this process is still being worked out. This cracked me up when it came out. The FDA broke its own internet. So you're supposed to submit the eSTAR via the client communication portal, and the portal won't accept all eSTARs. And so sometimes you still have to prepare these on a flash drive and mail them into the document center. So the other weakness is that there are complications with the signatures. The truthful and accuracy statement must be assigned by the official correspondent editing the file, and the official correspondent must be the one to finalize all signatures. but then sometimes this could be a concern working for with consultants, or when there are multiple people from the company that should be responsible for signing. And in practice, file collaboration happens all the time on 510Ks, but that's going to have to happen outside of eSTAR, because eSTAR does not track changes. The file sharing of the eSTAR template itself is difficult. And if you rely on iterative editing with a team or a client, using solely the eSTAR template is complex and difficult. Weaknesses also include the limited space in text sections. They require you to scroll. There's no formatting that's supported, and the content that is used to populate the 510K summary. So here's an example. You can tell like the device description is very lengthy section. And so all you get is like this text box that's 4 lines. So once you copy and paste, if say somebody makes a change later, you have to scroll and scroll and scroll. Also, if you are trying to collaborate directly in the eSTAR template and you're trying to read, you can't read more than 4 sentences at a time, which is kind of hard to keep the context of what you just read. So don't make sure you don't miss any required boxes. The biocompatibility section is a little tricky because you must click through each of the tests and either put in information relative to that test or put in a justification for why that test is unnecessary or wasn't chosen. What does this mean for the future of 510K in terms of global harmonization initiatives and standardization with other submissions? Health Canada just populated or just did a pilot with the eSTAR. And from what I hear from my Canadian friends, it was quite clunky. What does this harmonization plan look like beyond eSTAR? All these other geographies where they're considering the pilot of the eSTAR have totally different classifications to systems. So how is all that going to work out and be integrated? The pre-submissions were released in beta in June this year. The PMA was released on Wednesday, and other Q submissions like the 513Gs we anticipate to roll out over the next year. Threats is that the template crashes, which happens a lot. You need to save early and often, which also takes a lot of time. So and then a threat is also someone in your organization made a change. There's no track changes, so you're not going to know that A, it changed, or B, know what or where to go to review the change. There's a lot of wasted time because you're going to spend a lot of time waiting in front of your computer for Adobe to respond, or Adobe to save, or to upload an attachment. And the threat is mainly to your mental health during this whole process. It'll make you a little crazy. So to recap, your strengths include no RTA review, and I say all these are hypothetical, alignment with the internal FDA review templates, guidance on document integration, automation of the 510K summary, completion verification, and no more standard forms. Recognized consensus standard forms like declarations of conformity. Weaknesses include the challenges with the file size, count, and versions, bugs in the software apps, the difficulty of managing signatures, no file collaboration, and limited text sections for visibility. Opportunities is that it is an opportunity for a streamlined global harmonization initiative for submissions and expansion to other submission types. threats or the template crashes, wasted time, and your mental health. So the reviews are in. These are when I was preparing this and I was talking to some different colleagues that have used it since it first came out, well before it was required. It's a pain. It has little ability to tell a story or cross-reference sections. The redundant info is just clunky. And if you modify a further section, you have to go back and redo a previous section.
It looks like they've been complaining since the 1970s with this slide.
It's vintage.
Mm-hmm.
Just much like the software programming that's behind it.
Good one.
Mm-hmm. But a lot of people really love it and and thought it improves their process. But the people who said that weren't really relying on other team members for collaboration either. So I think that has a lot to do with where you're at on the love or hate. So this is new to everybody, even the FDA. So there is still a learning curve, and we are for sure putting all the electronic systems and interfaces through their paces right now, as we see by them breaking their own systems. There is no FDA specific trainings on the CDH Learn portal, which I thought was fascinating for them to make this mandatory in October. And they don't have a FDA provided training. They do have FAQs. And one of the most helpful things that I've seen was a REMSIS eSTAR submissions training where the FDA were the guest speakers. There were 2 people from the FDA, and it was very helpful and very informative. So to optimize the process, your steps to success are going to start with downloading the current eSTAR form from the FDA. And bless your heart, if you started compiling your eSTAR and then they changed the template halfway through right before you were ready to submit. Populate the required sections. Note the color coordination. Your red required, your green is optional, required or optional to complete, and your gray is also optional. And then you can submit when your status bar turns green and says it's complete. So the secrets to be successful with those steps is that we recommend preparing the Word document for your team collaboration. And then once you get the finalization, copy and paste it into the eSTAR or attach it, put it in, upload it as attachment. Utilize the instructional and help text where applicable. Do not include confidential information in the text boxes that are with the yellow banners at the top. Use smart naming conventions to facilitate finding attachments. And then save the templates after every change or every attachment that you upload to prevent loss of data if it preliminary crashes. So use the verification section at the end of the template to see what's missing. And don't forget to go back and complete all the sections and look for that green status bar that it's complete and ready for upload. Upload it to the CCP or the Customer Collaboration Program portal. The requirements are that you have a signed cover letter attachment within the eSTAR template. You have the eSTAR template in all the files, and then you upload it to CCP and you press send, unless it doesn't take it, and then you put it on your flash drive and mail it in. So how do you process additional information requests now? Well, option 1 is that you can continue to submit them in the eCopy format, or you can also use the eSTAR template, and instead of, you would still select pre-market notification. Instead of new application, you'll select additional information. So here's some helpful links if you want to go back and verify all of this later, or you need to reference some of this information or the FAQs.